This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Anti-corruption watchdog National Integrity Action wants policymakers to revisit the law which prohibits the Integrity Commission from providing updates to the public on investigations into corruption. Following calls for updates on various corruption investigations, the Integrity Commission issued a statement declaring that it will not break the law to satisfy persons calling for progress reports on its probes. NIA Executive Director Trevor Monroe says Jamaicans should not be kept in the dark about investigations into acts of corruption. He thinks the Integrity Commission should inform the public about the process of establishing the body as a functioning entity. Opposition leader and president of the People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, is taking the government to task over its management of the major road improvement project, which is causing daily traffic gridlock in Kingston and parts of St. Catherine. Addressing party supporters at the PMP's 80th annual conference at the National Arena yesterday, Dr. Phillips argued that the chaos caused by the roadwork is another sign of the government's inability to carry out proper planning. Dr. Phillips also dismissed claims by the government that it was forced to implement the projects in order to keep the loans offered by the Chinese government. Dr. Peter Phillips described the Andrew Holness-led administration as the most corrupt in the history of independent Jamaica, citing such controversies as the debushing program, the acquisition of police-used cars and firearm licensing authority, Petrojam, and more. Jamaica Labour Party leader Prime Minister Andrew Holness last night fired back at People's National Party President Dr. Peter Phillips. Speaking at a gospel concert in the JLP Area 2 Council, Holness said Phillips was being hypocritical. According to Holness, the PMP's list of corrupt activities dates back to 1989 with the Rollins land scandal to 2017 with the Manchester Parish Council scandal. Holness said the JLP is the only government that has taken serious action to deal with corruption and put in place the necessary mechanisms to fight it. He cited the establishment of the Contractor General's Office by former Prime Minister Edward Siaga and the recent passage of the Integrity and Mocha Bills. As of January 1 next year, sugary drinks will be banned from public health facilities. That's the word from Minister of Health Dr. Christopher Tufton. In an interview at the Caribbean Wellness Day Symposium held at the Spanish Court Hotel in New Kingston last week, the minister said a tone must be set for people not to drink themselves to sickness. The minister pointed out that sensitization is ongoing, and come next January, administrators at institutions will play a critical part of the enforcement. During his contribution to the 2018-2019 sectoral debate, Dr. Tufton spoke of the impending restriction of certain types of sugary drinks in schools and health facilities and made an appeal for increased consumption of water and fruit juices. The earthquake unit at the University of West Indies reported a light earthquake with a magnitude of 4.6 that was felt in the corporate area and St. Catherine at 1:47 Sunday afternoon. The unit reported the tremor had a focal depth of 23.1 kilometers. Meanwhile, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management says it has so far not received any reports of damage. The tremor was felt in the corporate area, St. Catherine and Clarendon. Others as far away as Falmouth in Trelawney and some in St. Anne have reported the earthquake. In regional news, Barbados has found a new supplier for petrol now that the Trinidadian government is planning to shut down its oil refinery, and that's according to Energy Minister Wilfred Abrahams. The government's oil importer, the Barbados National Oil Company Limited, is to sign a new petroleum contract by November with a fresh supplier, but Abrahams is mum on the identity of the supplier. The unidentified supplier is to replace Trinidad and Tobago's state-owned oil refinery, Petrotrin, which Port of Spain announced last month that it was going to be closed due to increasing financial losses, leaving 1,700 jobless. Barbados National Oil Company Limited currently imports gasoline from Petrochin and sells Barbadian crude oil to the Trinidadian refinery. In sports, President of the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, the JAAAs, Dr. Warren Blake, says the aim of the Jamaica International Invitational Meet is not to make a profit, but to provide an international platform for local athletes to perform, as well as to provide them with a source of income. His comments follows those of Minister of Sport Olivia Grange, who has recommended that the meet be revised since it has failed to make a profit in the last few editions. Dr. Blake is quoted by the Jamaica Gleaner saying the international meet aims at development and giving the athletes who would not get a Diamond League lane a chance to make some earnings, end quote. He says it is hard to make a profit from the meet when you pay participants and workers. Minister Grange said in an interview last week that her ministry has had to bail out the directors of the meet as they have been having a deficit over the past few years. Minister Grange says the government is willing to render its assistance as it wants to continue growing the sport. And that's the news. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.